On Amazon, in this report that Amazon might start listing the additional cost on specific items put in place by the tariffs, the president is clearly angry. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said she had spoken to him about it this morning.
Hi, Mr. Secretary. So it was reported this morning that Amazon will soon display a little number next to the price of each product that shows how much the Trump tariffs are adding to the cost of each product.
Why didn't Amazon do this when the Biden administration hiked inflation to the highest level in 40 years? And I would also add that it's not a surprise because, as Reuters recently wrote, Amazon has partnered with a Chinese propaganda arm.
Amazon is pulling back from America's supply chain, driven not by rivalry or regulations, but by President Trump's brutal tariffs. These steep import taxes have spiked expenses, forcing Amazon, which controls 40% of U.S. e-commerce, to shift operations to lower-cost nations. This withdrawal exposes a critical flaw in Trump's plan to boost American industry as jobs and investments flow overseas instead. In April 2025, President Donald Trump unleashed a bold trade policy that sent shockwaves through the global economy. He imposed a 10% tariff on all imports entering the United States, and a staggering 145% tax on goods from China, the world's largest manufacturing powerhouse. This dramatic move, described by analysts as economic warfare, disrupted supply chains worldwide. The tariffs created an urgent crisis for Amazon, a titan controlling 40% of U.S. e-commerce. Within 2 months, the company launched a massive restructuring of over $13 billion in supply chain contracts to shield itself from rising expenses. The tariffs hit hard, inflating the price of everyday goods Americans rely on: smartphones, laptops, clothing, and household appliances. A Reuters report estimates that importing electronics alone surged by 25% due to the 145% tariff on Chinese goods. Amazon, known for low prices and lightning-fast delivery, faced a stark choice: absorb the losses or pass them on to customers. Neither option was sustainable. Amazon acted swiftly to protect its business model, slashing contracts with suppliers tied to high-cost imports and rethinking its global logistics strategy. This wasn't just a minor adjustment, it marked a seismic shift in Amazon's operations. The scale of Trump's tariffs dwarfs earlier trade measures. In 2018, his administration imposed a 25% tariff on Chinese goods, which strained supply chains but allowed companies like Amazon to adapt through price adjustments. The 145% tariff, however, is a game changer. It's not just a tax, it's a barrier that makes importing from China nearly impossible for many businesses. Amazon's response highlights the limits of protectionist policies. Trump aimed to revive American manufacturing by making foreign goods less competitive. Yet the immediate fallout suggests otherwise. Instead of spurring domestic production, the tariffs push companies to find workarounds outside the U.S. market. A Wall Street Journal analysis notes that U.S. import volumes dropped by 15% in the first half of 2025, as companies like Amazon rerouted their operations to avoid the financial hit. This shift doesn't just affect Amazon, it signals a broader retreat by global businesses from US-centric trade routes. Amazon's $13 billion overhaul involved canceling contracts with dozens of suppliers and redirecting billions in investments to alternative sourcing regions. This move raises questions about the long-term health of US trade infrastructure. Ports, trucking companies, and warehouses dependent on Amazon's import volume are now feeling the strain. A quiet but profound shift is reshaping global trade as Amazon redirects its supply chain from American ports to new hubs in Mexico, India, and Vietnam. While these countries see a surge in factories and distribution centers, the once bustling ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach face a troubling slowdown, with workers bearing the brunt of the decline. Los Angeles and Long Beach served as the backbone of U.S. trade for decades, processing millions of containers from Asia annually. In 2025, however, activity at these hubs has plummeted. Reuters reported a 22% drop in container traffic through Los Angeles this year, a direct result of Amazon rerouting shipments to avoid U.S. tariffs. Fewer ships mean fewer jobs, threatening the livelihoods of thousands in California's port communities. Across the border, Mexico is emerging as a new linchpin in Amazon's North American strategy. The company has rapidly expanded its presence in northern states like Tijuana and Monterrey, where new distribution centers are sprouting. A Bloomberg report estimates a 35% increase in logistics facilities in Mexico in 2025, driven by Amazon's need for cost-effective routes into the U.S. market. India and Vietnam are also gaining ground as key players in Amazon's global network. Both countries offer low-cost manufacturing and government incentives, attracting billions in corporate investment. Vietnam's export sector grew by 18% in 2024, fueled by companies like Amazon shifting production from China. These nations aren't just temporary alternatives. They're becoming permanent fixtures in Amazon's supply chain. This shift delivers significant economic benefits to Mexico, India, and Vietnam, while creating economic pain in U.S. port communities. The decline in container traffic has reduced work hours for dock workers and drivers. A study by the Port of Los Angeles estimates that every 10% drop in container volume cuts approximately 5,000 jobs in the region. With a 22% reduction already in 2025, the human toll is evident. The broader implications are concerning. The U.S. has long relied on its ports as gateways to global trade, giving it leverage over supply chains. As Amazon and other companies shift operations abroad, that leverage weakens. A Financial Times report warns that the U.S. could lose 10% of its global trade influence by 2027 if current trends continue. Across the United States, major retailers like Walmart, Target, Home Depot, and Mattel are sounding alarms about climbing prices and potential product shortages. These household names warn that everyday goods are becoming more expensive, while some products may vanish from shelves entirely. This stems from the heavy tariffs imposed by Trump's administration in 2025. Walmart faces a 12% increase in the cost of consumer goods, according to company estimates. This rise affects everything from clothing to kitchen appliances. Target reports similar challenges, while Home Depot warns that entire product lines, like tools and building materials, risk disappearing. Mattel faces production delays and cost spikes that could make toys pricier and harder to find. These changes hit consumers directly, especially low-income families who depend on retailers like Walmart and Target for essentials. Walmart's 12% price hike adds hundreds of dollars annually to household budgets, straining those already living paycheck to paycheck. A Consumer Reports survey indicates that 30% of low-income households have already cut back on grocery spending in 2025 due to rising costs. The retail sector's struggles have broader implications for the U.S. economy. As prices rise, demand weakens, threatening jobs and wages. A National Retail Federation report projects that a 10% drop in consumer spending could lead to 500,000 job losses in retail by mid-2026. This creates a vicious cycle where higher prices reduce purchases, slow business, and lead to fewer hours or layoffs for workers. Looking ahead, analysts forecast that if tariffs remain unchanged, retail prices could surge by 15% to 20% by late 2025. According to the Economic Policy Institute, this would translate to an additional $1,000 in annual expenses for the average family. The ripple effects could dampen growth, with GDP potentially dropping by 1% in 2026. Amazon's pivot reflects more than just corporate strategy. It marks a quiet but decisive retreat from the Made in America model. By investing more in low-cost regions like Mexico and Vietnam, the company is minimizing its domestic footprint while maximizing global profit. As global supply chains realign, America's influence continues to diminish. The consequences of this shift will be felt not only in trade statistics, but also in jobs, policy debates, and the everyday economy. Trump's tariffs, designed to strengthen American manufacturing, are instead pushing companies to seek alternatives overseas, potentially weakening America's role in global commerce for years to come.